The Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry can trace its origins to 1794, when local volunteer troops were raised to assist the civil powers. Each troop was about 50 strong with 3 officers. They were required to provide their own uniforms and mounts, while the government would supply their arms and ammunition. In 1827 the government disbanded the yeomanry regiments in those districts where they had not been mobilized in the previous 10 years. The Kent Regiment was stood down and their equipment returned to the regular army. But for this gap in service, the Kent Yeomanry formations would have been the most senior yeomanry regiments in the country in terms of the date of acceptance of its senior troop, the Cinque Ports Cavalry. In 1830 the West Kent Yeomanry was reformed, and in 1864 the West Kent Yeomanry was awarded the title Queen's Own and became known as the Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry. History: Boer War. On December 13, 1899, the decision to allow volunteer forces serve in the Second Boer War was made. Due to the string of defeats during Black Week in December 1899, the British government realized they were going to need more troops than just the regular army, thus issuing a royal warrant on December 24, 1899. This warrant officially created the Imperial Yeomanry. The Royal Warrant asks standing yeomanry regiments to provide service companies of approximately 115 men each. In addition to this, many British citizens volunteered to join the new regiment. Although there were strict requirements, many volunteers were accepted with substandard horsemanship, marksmanship. However, they had significant time to train while awaiting transport. The first contingent of recruits contained 550 officers, 10,371 men with 20 battalions and 4 companies, which arrived in South Africa between February and April 1900. Upon their arrival, the regiment was sent throughout the zone of operations. The Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry provided troops for the 36th Company, 9th Battalion, First World War in accordance with the Territorial and Reserve Forces Act 1907, which brought the Territorial Force into being. The TF was intended to be a home defense force for service during wartime, and members could not be compelled to serve outside the country. However, on the outbreak of war on the 4th of August 1914, many members volunteered for Imperial service. Therefore, TF units were split in August and September 1914 into first-line and second-line units. Later, a third line was formed to act as a reserve, providing trained replacements for the first and second-line regiments. 1/1 of a stone Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry. The first-line regiment was mobilized on the 4th of August 1914 at the outbreak of the First World War and was in the Canterbury area until September 1915. It was dismounted and left Kent for Liverpool. On the 24th of September it boarded RMS Olympic and sailed the next day. It arrived at Lemnos on the 1st of October. The regiment landed in Gallipoli on the 8th of October and was attached to the 42nd Division. On the 30th of December it was evacuated to Mudros with 42nd Division. It left the division at Mudros on the 2nd of January 1916. The brigade, with the regiment, was withdrawn to Egypt in February 1916 and formed part of the Suez Canal defences. On the 22nd of February, Southeastern Mounted Brigade was absorbed into the 3rd Dismounted Brigade. The brigade served as part of the Suez Canal defences from the 14th of March to the 26th of July. Attached to 42nd Division, it then joined the Western Frontier Force. By the end of the year, it was back on the Suez. The brigade was with the Suez Canal defences when, on the 14th of January 1917, Egyptian Expeditionary Force Order No. 26 instructed that the 2nd, 3rd and 4th Dismounted Brigades be reorganized as the 229th, 230th and 231st Brigades. The brigade units were reorganized in January and February 1917. As a result, the 1/1 of a Stone Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry was amalgamated with 1/1 of a Stone Royal East Kent Yeomanry at Sollum on 1 February 1917 and redesignated 10th Battalion, Buffs. On 23 February, the GOCEEF sought permission from the War Office to form the 229th, 230th and 231st Brigades into a new division. The War Office granted permission and the new 74th Division started to form. The 230th Brigade joined the division at Deir el-Balah between 9 and 13 April. The battalion remained with 230th Brigade in 74th Division for the rest of the war. With the 74th Division, the battalion took part in the invasion of Palestine in 1917 and 1918. It fought in the Second and Third Battles of Gaza. At the end of 1917, it took part in the capture and defense of Jerusalem and in March 1918 in the Battle of Tel Assur. On 3 April 1918, the division was warned that it would move to France and by 30 April 1918 had completed embarkation at Alexandria. In May 1918, the battalion landed at Marseille, France with 74th Division. It served in France and Flanders with the division for the rest of the war. By the 18th of May, the division had concentrated around Rouen in the Abbeville area. Here the dismounted yeomanry underwent training for service on the Western Front, particularly gas defense. On 14 July 1918 the Yeomanry Division went into the line for the first time, near Merville on the right of 11th Corps. From September 1918, as part of 3rd Corps of 4th Army, it took part in the 100 Days Offensive including the Second Battle of the Somme and the battles of the Hindenburg Line. In October and November 1918 it took part in the final advance in Artois and Flanders. By the armistice it was near Tournai, Belgique, still with 74th Division. With the end of the war, the troops of 74th Division were engaged in railway repair work and education was undertaken while demobilization began. The division and its subformations were disbanded on 10 July 1919. 2/1 of a Stone Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry. The 2nd Line Regiment was formed at Maidstone in August 1914. In January 1915 it moved to Hounslow Barracks and in April to Maresfield. There it took over the horses of the Royal Canadian Dragoons and Lord Strathcona's horse who were going dismounted to the Western Front. In October 1915 the regiment was at Westbere near Canterbury in 2/1 of a Stone Southeastern Mounted Brigade. On 31 March 1916, the remaining mounted brigades were ordered to be numbered in a single sequence. The brigade was numbered as 14th Mounted Brigade and joined 4th Mounted Division, still at Canterbury. In July 1916 it transferred to 3rd Mounted Brigade in the new 1st Mounted Division near Maidstone. In October 1916 it handed its horses over to 2/1 of a Stone Queen's Own Dorset Yeomanry and in November was converted to a cyclist unit. The regiment was merged with the 2/1 of a Stone Royal East Kent Yeomanry to form 9th Yeomanry Cyclist Regiment in 3rd Cyclist Brigade in the Ipswich area. In March 1917 it resumed its identity as 2/1 of a Stone Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry at Woodbridge, still in 3rd Cyclist Brigade. In April 1918, the regiment moved with its brigade to Ireland and was stationed in Dublin and then Claremorris. There was no further change before the end of the War 3/1 of a Stone Queen's Own West Kent Yeomanry. The 3rd Line Regiment was formed at the end of 1914 at Canterbury. In June 1915 it was affiliated to 3rd Reserve Cavalry Regiment at Canterbury. In the summer of 1916 it was dismounted and attached to the 3rd Line groups of the Home Counties Division at Crowborough as its first line was serving as infantry. In November 1916 it was at Tunbridge Wells. The regiment was disbanded in February 1917, with personnel transferring to the 2nd Line Regiment and to the 4th Battalion of the Royal West Kent Regiment at Crowborough. Post-war, following the experience of the First World War, it was decided that only the 14 most senior yeomanry regiments would be retained as horse cavalry, with the rest being transferred to other roles. As a result, on the 20th of August 1920, the Royal East Kent Yeomanry was amalgamated with the West Kent Yeomanry to form the Kent Yeomanry and simultaneously re-rolled as Field Artillery to form 6th Army Brigade, RFA, battle honours. The West Kent Yeomanry was awarded the following battle honours. Bibliography. Beck Major F. Order of Battle of Divisions Part 2A. The Territorial Force Mounted Divisions and the 1st Line Territorial Force Divisions. London, His Majesty's Stationery Office. ISBN 1-871-16712-4. Beck Major F. Order of Battle of Divisions Part 2B. The 2nd Line Territorial Force Divisions with the Home Service Divisions and 74th and 75th Divisions. London, His Majesty's Stationery Office. ISBN 1-871-16700. Frederick J. B.M. Lineage Book of British Land Force 1660–1978. Wakefield, Yorkshire. Microform Academic Publishers. ISBN 1-85117-009-X. James Brigadier E.A. British Regiments 1914–18. London, Samson Books Limited. ISBN 0-906304-032. Milam, Patrick. The Yeomanry Regiments, 200 Years of Tradition. Edinburgh, Canongate Academic. ISBN 1-898410-36-4. Rinaldi, Richard A. Order of Battle of the British Army 1914. Bravi Rick I. ISBN 9780977607280. Westlake, Ray. British Regiments at Gallipoli. Barnsley, Leo Cooper. ISBN 085052511X.